Today we're on a special edition of Alcohnerds, and
I'm here with my two non-scientist friends, Amilcar and Rachel. Today we want to talk about new emerging solutions that are trying to tackle the problem of excessive drinking, which is a problem that is global. It's also a problem that is very old. We know that drinking has been around for at least 13,000 years. There is archaeological evidence of Natufian fermentation sites, and they're 13,000 years old. Drinking alcohol is actually part of the Jewish and part of the Christian religion. It's actually part of the ceremony. The Americans tried to ban it in the Roaring 20s, the years of Prohibition. We don't want to stop drinking. We want to drink. We saw what happened in the United States when they tried to abolish drinking completely, and they couldn't. It seems to be very seriously entrenched in human society and human culture, at least modern. And it's a problem. Everybody knows that it causes a whole range of problems. There are some really, really interesting things to say about new solutions, maybe not everybody's aware of, that are emerging these days. And they each come from a completely different direction, and it looks like change is coming. So we want to talk a little bit about that today. Okay?
Yeah, I'm all ears over here for now.
Okay. As I said before, the fact that alcohol consumption is a problem isn't surprising, and it's not a new thing. And there are existing medicines, pharmaceutical medicines, that have been suggested by the pharmaceutical industry in order to help people curb their excessive drinking behavior. Some prominent examples are disulfiram, naltrexone, camprosate. These are prescribed pharmaceuticals that you can take the pill and it'll keep you from drinking too much. The problem is that they don't do it in a pleasurable way. There's no incentive for people to take them. And as a result, they're really largely unsuccessful because there isn't enough motivation to use this as a tool.
What sort of motivation? What do you mean?
So disulfiram, for example, makes you nauseous if you drink.
Oh,
So it punishes you for drinking. Keep from drinking too much. So someone thinks, okay, so if I take this before I go to the bar, I certainly won't drink as much because I'll get nauseous. But why would they take it? Right?
Amazing.
Now, naltrexone is kind of the same idea, except it just doesn't make you feel inebriated or as inebriated, so it doesn't motivate you to keep drinking.
Right. I think the ideal, now that you mentioned motivation to stop drinking, I think the ideal binge buster would give you a bit of inebriation and then just take away your appetite for it.
Right. So that you're describing MEAI, which is actually a molecule that I suggested for curbing binge behavior because it has those properties. It is a little bit pleasurable, but then it does something to the way your brain works to make your decision-making process different and prevents you from wanting more. It's currently being put through clinical trials through the FDA by a company called Clear Mind Medicine that I work as an advisor for. So, just to be fully transparent, I'm not trying to advertise because I do want to cover the entire spectrum of solutions that are out there. And I think that most of the solutions will work to some extent, but I don't actually think that any one solution is sufficient to really make a substantial change, because alcohol is so old and so pervasive and so available and so accepted by so many people around the world. So having talked about that, let's talk about the other solutions that are out there. So there's a company in Britain that was founded by Professor David Nutt.
I'm familiar with David Nutt.
A lot of people are. one of the most admired neuropsychopharmacologists in the world. And they've got a drink that gives you a little bit of a mellowing effect called Sentia. And they've taken it a step further and rebranded their company, which was initially called Alcohnerds, to be called GABA Labs.
Oh, here, I found it. Like, it says something about its first botanical ingredient known as Abby. The ingredient has been licensed to the social drinks company, which is now launching the first of a new range of botanical spirits called Sentia. Abby is a botanical ingredient which can be formulated into a liquid product to provide an agreeable drinking experience that mimics the sociability and conviviality effects of the alcohol-based drink, like alcohol but better.
Yeah, so they've rebranded themselves as GABA Labs in order to make themselves into a pharmaceutical so that they can offer synthetics also that address the GABA receptor, which is really the feeling that everyone knows as being drunk. It's a soothing kind of mellowing effect that a lot of people, that's what they're looking for.
Interesting.
So yeah, but let's go back to the basics. We all know that humanity has a problem of excessive drinking. We live in a time of plenty. We have a lot of pressure in our lives. We want to escape from that pressure. And we have enough safety nets to get completely wasted. We can go and drink ourselves into oblivion without having to pay too much a price, more than a hangover, and maybe going to bed with the wrong person, or not finding the keys to your car. There are consequences, but they're not dire.
Depends.
They are dire in the long run, of course. So in order to get really, really drunk, you have to consume very large amounts of it, which has, over time, incrementally and gradually, it has deteriorating effect on your liver if you make a habit of it. And what companies like GABA Labs are saying is, let's find a chemical that gives the same effect, but from a neuropsychopharmacological point of view, but at dosages that are much less than what you would have to take in order to get drunk from alcohol. And a lot of people know that this is something that works because we know, for example, that GHB and GBL are really, really popular drugs in places where they're allowed and in places where they're not allowed. In most places they're not allowed, but they are really stronger forms of alcohol that 1/100th of the amount give you double the drunkenness of ethanol, which is the active component in alcoholic beverages. So that's an approach. There's an inherent problem with that approach when you try to solve the craving for alcohol by innervating the GABA pathways in the brain. You run the risk of over-innervating because people are going to drink in conjunction with whatever solution you're going to offer. They're going to continue to take benzodiazepines, which also agonize the GABA receptors. When you add more and more compounds or active agents that work on the same subsystem in the brain, you overload that subsystem. But there are ways of changing behavior that go through different systems in the brain. Before we become more specific, we need to understand what it is about ethanol that is actually making compelling people to drink more and more. There's a trap. Ethanol calms you down, and about 40 minutes later, it turns into acetaldehyde, which is a glutamate, and that agitates you. And so to get rid of that agitation, you drink more alcohol because it's available, it's right there, and that calms you down. And then, great, right? That keeps going and going and going. And that's the cycle that you have to break in one way or another in order to really solve excessive drinking. We don't want to abstain. And also, it's not a good idea because modern life is stressed enough for there to be a real need to unwind. So we don't want a solution that is complete abstinence. Even people get completely wasted in Iran, where it is highly illegal to drink. There are other solutions that can provide this kind of thing that are completely out of the box. One of them is what you mentioned before, Rachel, MEAI that's developed by Clear Mind Medicine.
Moderation versus abstinent?
That is correct. So in order to moderate, you can stop behavior using something like MEAI with a serotonin receptor agonist, and it simply changes the decision-making process in your brain. And it seems that one of its downstream metabolites also makes you adopt a getting ready for bed behavior, kind of like getting that mentality that the day is coming to a close and it's time to go to bed. You don't lose control. You just begin to make decisions which take all of the stimuli out of your life. So you either go home, or you go to a quiet place, or you turn off the TV, or you
wind down. And people don't suffer from blackouts with MEAI?
No. The most that can happen is that they just curl up into a ball, and lie motionless, either sleeping or not sleeping.
Right.
One of the webinars, it was said that someone's father had to be reminded to take their MEAI, and it was very effective. What I mean by effective is it changed the relationship between daughter and father for the positive, a relationship which was not existent before that.
So another interesting aspect of moderation is that people often they drink in order to let things get wild, and you need what they call a designated driver or responsible adult. And today, cellular phones can offer you that thing that really has an influence on your behavior that doesn't get drunk. And Apple has an app called Reframe that will put you in touch with a drinking coach. And maybe one day, all of these solutions are going to work together so that the drinking coach will tell you, well, it's time to take MEAI, or I would suggest that you choose Sentia as, to start with, and then maybe have a few drinks, and then maybe have some MEAI, and then maybe you should drive home, or maybe you shouldn't. It depends. But there's actually a sober person available to you that is an expert on how you should behave in all kinds of situations.
That is incredible.
And it also hooks into the entire community of people that are using the app, so they can learn from each other as to what to do in similar situations that they run into. So you get this synergistic bang from people pooling their problems and solutions into one big knowledge base, which is called an online community. But that is, unfortunately, at this moment, still a dream. I hope it's going to happen fast. It looks like the change in the future is approaching rapidly. So there's a lot to look forward to. What do you think?
Definitely. I mean, it seems enticing to me, and I don't even have a serious drinking problem. I would say I have like a minor drinking problem, and I'm even enticed by the Sentia drink, Sentia Red. It's 30 pounds a bottle. It seems, I mean, I might order one.
Yeah, go for it.
It's a nice buzz, and there's no hangover, and I mean it is quite pricey.
And I would also recommend you to register for the clinical trials for MEAI. Yeah,
I'll do that as well.
Where are these trials taking place?
Clinical trials today are multi-centered, so they'll be taking place all over the world. Yeah. So that concludes our special edition of Alcohnerds for today, and I want to thank my guests very much, and I want to thank the listeners, and I hope you join us next time for Alcohnerds.
You're more
Thank
than
you.
welcome.